Welcome back, Sternberg.
Rabbi, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. We're going to try our best. It's been a bit of a rough ride, I must say. I mean, but whatever. Some of the things I brought on myself. Baruch Hashem. Hopefully, we'll get over it. We'll be back to bigger and better, as they say. Okay.
Tefillah every day. You're in our tefillah, Rabbi.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That made a big difference. I'm quite sure. Thank you. So I made some really serious judgmental errors. They gave me some medicine to take, so I sort of overdosed. And I had to go back to the hospital for a whole day, but whatever. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So let's see what we stopped in the middle of a piece, which I think is very crucial for us to, unless there's some questions or, something you want to pick up on, boys. So I'm happy to do it. Otherwise, we'll continue over here with the idea of kofe. Like I mentioned, sometimes it's a bit of a strain to push, so I'm going to go a little slow, and we'll do it methodically, I hope. So the idea over here is to practice a certain self-restraint and a control over one's desires and drives. So he brings down like this. He says, "Avalafum kushta." What a person should really know. Kfar kasu balei musar. So again, the Peleh Yoetz brings down, he quotes here in parentheses that it's to be found in the Chovos Halavavos, Rabbi Bakuda, Shari Tshuva, from Rabbeinu Yonah. Shein Roy, it's not an approach, Lashgiach al Katnus Ha'aveira. In other words, if a person wants to have a certain control over one's desires, so there are different ways of approaching it. So he's telling us over here that one of the approaches would have been to minimize the Aveira. In other words, what am I actually coming away with? Whenever somebody wants to approach you with a business deal, you want to know what are you offering and what's the cost. So when the Yetzer Hara is offering us something, a pleasure, let's say, so I have to calculate in my mind, well, how much pleasure am I actually coming away with? And what's the cost? So if you realize that the cost is just so much more than what the pleasure you're getting, then you don't buy into the deal. So that's one of the ways that a person would approach the Yetzer Hara. So he's telling us over here that you should know that that's not really the preferred way to control one's desire. It's not she'ein roy lahashgiach al katnus ha'aveira. That's not what we should focus in on. Ela rather, what he's saying, al godel ha'avdon shetziva olav. What we have to really focus in on is something very, very important for us, is to recognize and to live with the awareness of who is the author, who is the source of the one telling me what to do. In other words, if I'm going to listen to the Aveira, so then I'm betraying Hashem. And don't per se think of what am I going to get out of it, but look, how could I possibly do something to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's the Adon HaKol, right? This is one of the famous ideas that the Gemara brings down. The Rashi quotes in Chumash, when after Adam and Chava took from the Eitz Hadas, so immediately after Hashem speaks to Adam and then Chava, he goes right into and he accuses the Nachash. And the Gemara brings down that had Hashem asked the Nachash, what were you thinking? The Nachash had a very good excuse, he said. But the Gemara brings down Divrei Harav, Divrei HaTalmud, Divrei Mishomim. I offered them something, but you also told them something. So I never dreamt that they would have consented to what I offered them, because we have a rule that if the Rebbe tells you something and the Talmud tells you something, then naturally, who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to the Rebbe over the Talmud. So that would have been a perfect excuse for the Nachash to offer. and to get him off from being with all of the curses that he came away with. He could have said, I never anticipated that Adam and Chava would actually listen to me. I'm just proposing something to them, but I knew that you told them not to. So they would have never listened to me. So this is what the Chavos, the Levavos, and the Shari Tshuva are trying to point out over here, is that instead of focusing in on what is the Nachash, what is the Yetzer Hara offering me, they rather just understand that who is the one that's legislating and telling me not to do that. Focus in on the greatness of Hashem. V'kol over mitzvahs hamelech, and anyone who violates a mitzvah from the king, Ketana or Gedola, whether it's a small thing or it's a major thing, in effect, what are you doing? You're mored b'malchus. You're a traitor. It's irrelevant how serious it is. If you're given an expectation, anyone who doesn't follow that expectation, whether it's a large thing or a small thing, that's it. It's a betrayal to Hashem. And these are some. Now, this is some of the things that we try to focus in on when it comes to Aser Shemei Tshuva. In other words, besides the sin, there are two things that happen when a person commits a sin. Number one, he is damaging himself spiritually, because if the Torah doesn't want you to do something, it's not to make things difficult for a person. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who created you and your neshama, he understands that doing certain things is damaging to your neshama. Just like if a person has a certain sensitivity to certain things, he's allergic to wheat or peanuts or whatever it is, it can be deadly to a person if you eat that. So Hashem is telling you consuming certain things or doing certain things is deadly to your neshama. So that's one thing that we do. But above and beyond that, there's the Chil Hashem involved over here. You didn't listen to Hashem. Right? In other words, if there are certain expectations you don't listen, that's a Chil Hashem. So it always involves two things. So he's pointing that over here. Besides the damage you're doing yourself, but above and beyond that, it's you didn't listen to Hashem. Kosfu Od, they write even further. Shaholach acha atzes yitzro. If someone's going to follow one's desires, afila over avera kala, even if one looks at it as something small, choshev ka'oved avodah zara, because in effect, what are you doing? You're serving yourself. He elaborates. Shekamosha oved avodah zara. If someone goes off and he serves idols, what is he doing? He's oved as Hashem. He's forsaking Hashem. He's accepting upon himself a new deity, a new sense of order. There's a new order, there's a new legislative system out there. He's leaving Hashem. He's working with another order over here, a mazal, ladon, or patron. He's going off. So that's the same thing over here. When you fall prey to your Yetzer, what are you doing in effect? You're accepting him that he is the one that legislates to you and he tells you what to do. He's the one that's pushing your buttons. You're not in control over him. He's controlling you. So he became your master. Ladonu, patron, he's the one that's telling you what he's the one that's controlling you. So you're in effect, you're leaving Hashem and taking on a new master. And he says there are many, many ways lahagdil hamadura that one can flame up this idea. Shekoldu dover pesha, anytime that you're doing something inappropriate, yichoshiv ka'avos ha'agala, you have to realize how serious it is. Your desires now are burning in you to do the avera. It's attacking you more so to such an extent that you're ready. That you shouldn't give yourself over. Because as we mentioned before, how enormous the reward is for someone who practices self-control. You're getting even more reward than someone who gives over one's life. Because according to your difficulty comes the reward. Kachi says, "O sanachas ruach liyotro," someone who does nachas for Hashem, kahu bar b'schoro, Hashem baracham lo yazov eschas. Hashem never forsakes those who cling to Him. Sheyu nilchamim im yitzram. People who are fighting, Hashem's with you. Raka hascholos koshos. This is an important idea. It's the beginning of it. It's only once you're starting out that's where the difficulty lies. But once you defined yourself and you stood your ground, so then already you've conquered that, and that became you already. And then if you continue doing it, it loses its difficulties. It became part of you. You developed that abilities. Your strength grew, and Hashem helped you do that. The kasha yurgulu ma'at, as you become more accustomed little by little, to go in a way which is helpful and a Torah way. As raglei chasidi yishma, Hashem protects you. Hashem watches over them. Hashem is watching over you, and that's that's what the Meshech Chachma brought down, as you're going to see in this week's parsha. You have Shalach. We just had Shalach, but the way the Meshech Chachma wants to describe it is, he says that normally Hashem would watch over when the Meraglim, when they were picked, they were proper people. They were people who were worthy of the task. And what happened though is that this Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz brings down. He says this idea. He says that when Hashem told Moshe, you can sell it l'daitcho. In other words, I didn't tell them to send the Meraglim. You want to? L'daitcho. It's with your understanding. So he says, what does that mean? When Rashi brings down the Medrash and Hashem says that you can send them l'daitcho, it means like this, that normally Hashem watches over the Jewish people. He watches over tzaddikim, that the Yoetz shouldn't overwhelm them. There's a special siyata d'shmaya that's had, and that Hashem protects us. Raglei chasidiv yishma. It's a pasuk. It says that Hashem protects those who are as chasidim. So once you asked to send them a raglim, so the Medrash says this l'daitch, it's you. That means I'm not going to encourage the sin, but I'm not going to be watching over you any longer. That special divine intervention that watches over those who Hashem who want to be as Hasidim, that's not going to be there anymore, and therefore that's how they fell prey to that, to what they saw and the disaster that came as a result. But this is the idea that Peleh is also bringing down. Kasher yurgulu ma'at leila b'derek tovim, as you accustom yourself to go in a proper way, as raglei chasidiv yishmor, Hashem will watch over the chasidim, his chasidim. V'libam chalal b'kirbim, he'll empty out the Yetzirah from them. V'yerav lahem, it will be pleasant for them. V'yivusam lehem lasos tov, they'll develop a pleasure in doing good. Sometimes, keeping Shabbos can quote unquote be boring. It's, what do I do with Shabbos, etc. All learning, etc. It's not as exciting. It's not, doesn't have what other things offer. But after a while, Hashem makes it that it becomes pleasurable for you because it touches your neshama, and then it's enjoyable. And therefore you won't have a desire to do. Your neshama will be the more dominant one, and you won't have any interest in doing what's ra. And he points out over here, you will get an enormous amount of reward. Yeah, this is this idea that we mentioned to you before with the from Yisrael Salant. You see that Peleh Yoetz is also bringing this down. It's a very beautiful idea, and it will be as if you are always in control over your Yetzirah. Shakol holach achar hascholos, because everything follows the beginning, and if in the beginning it was difficult, so then every time you keep doing it, you're getting that reward as if it was from that initial moment where it was so difficult to struggle. And Kula and Olos, they're all going to be counted that way, and that's an enormous idea. I just want to do one more little paragraph because it's a little straining on my voice. I apologize. We'll get back into it, but it does strain. So he's saying like this, Ukasha Yarbe Lasos Tov, when a person keeps doing what's right, and he'll go the extra mile. Chasidus again is doing more than what's expected. Sof she'agila madrega, he'll reach a level. Shein ched bo'al yodo, Hashem will watch over you. You won't sin. Lo teitze tekola mitachas yodo. And they have the famous story. I mean, I've heard it. I can't tell you where it came from, but I once heard that they quoted the name of the Chavetz Chaim. He said that it was like, it's been like, he said to someone, it was like, it's been like 40 years since I spoke a word of Lashon Hara. And it's been 20 years since I actually heard a word of Lashon Hara. In other words, if a person is working so hard to avoid certain things, Hashem will have it that it won't be there. Whereas the Chavetz Chaim just didn't hear it. He worked on his limbs to such an extent that his ears did not hear Lashon Hara, couldn't hear it. It's like Rabbi Miller used to point out by Avraham Avinu when the Malachim came. It says that he picked up his eyes and then I don't remember the pasuk of, and then he saw. Now Avraham Avinu had such control over his limbs, they had to train his eyes to see something. If he didn't want to see it, he didn't see it. This is where the tzaddikim are. This is what he's telling us over here. It won't happen. They're in such control of themselves that no avera comes from them. They won't hear anything. They won't see anything that the Torah doesn't want them to see. Like Maimer of Hossein Zechron LeBrocha say, "Afilu behemten shel tzaddikim." Not only does Hashem watch over the tzaddikim, He watches even over the possessions of tzaddikim. In a Kodesh Baruch Hu maybe takal al yodim tzaddikim atzma al kol shekim. If even the animals Hashem watches over, how much more so than the tzaddikim themselves? Once they reach that level, they make an announcement in Shemaim, Hizaru barav ploni, like the Gemara in Kedushin brings down, that in heaven they declare that the Yetzer Hara should stay away from certain people. Ba'ofen should sofa Rosh l'tzaddik. Like we see that the Rosh is looking to attack the tzaddik, Hashem lo ya, Hashem won't allow it. So these great people reach such a level, but it's out there for all of us on whatever area we want to push ourselves, and Hashem will watch over us so that no mishap should ever come up to us in such a way. Hashem will make sure Hashem watches over us. Bezrat Hashem, we'll continue with this piece tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem. Again, I apologize that I have to step a little early bit, so it's a little pressing on my voice. As you can see, I had surgery over here. It's a little straining on my throat. So I'm going to join over here. Mitzvah Hashem, we will pick up tomorrow. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the tefillahs you had for me, and Mitzvah Hashem, it's definitely getting better.
Yashikoach, Rabbi, Yashikoach.
Pleasure. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem.
Rabbi, feel good.
Maybe after.
Hi, Mayor. So much. So glad
Good to be back. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Alex, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Mate.
Hi, Mayor.
Stay strong in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's not easy these days.
Get yourself a good 45 and start using it.
I don't know how I'm going to arm myself.
I have 5 guns.
That's the only way.
I'll give you 5 guns.
I'll go out with a Gemara.
I'll remove the serial numbers. I'll give you the guns. It's a drop.